Hello, I'm Miranda Kahn.
And I'm John Bachman. Ahead today on Newsmax Now, President Obama meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the first time they met since the Iranian nuclear deal was struck. You could cut the tension with a knife. Alan Dershowitz and John Gizzi join us to discuss what happened at today's meeting and what the meeting between the two could tell us about the future between the two countries.
There's got to be something. They are getting desperate. So next week it'll be my kindergarten teacher who said I peed in my pants.
Ben Carson fires back at the media for the witch hunt he says he's the target of. John and I will take a look at what's next for the presidential candidate and the media.
And Donald Trump brought some of the highest ratings to Saturday Night Live in years. So we'll have a special Trump-only edition of Headlines and Punchlines. This is Newsmax Now. And we welcome everybody back to the Monday edition of Newsmax Now. Hope you had a wonderful weekend.
We sure do. It looks like Ben Carson had a pretty rough weekend. I think it's fair to say that. He's feuding with CNN and a few other networks after CNN questioned many of his personal stories in his autobiography, Gifted Hands. We'll discuss that in just a minute. But first, University of Missouri's President Tim Wolf resigns today amid controversy over racial tension on campus.
I'd ask everybody, from students to faculty, staff, to my friends, everybody, use my resignation to heal and start talking again.
Football team canceled 2 practices over the weekend after more than 30 black football players refused to play until Wolf stepped down. They say Wolf's handling of, or lack thereof, of racial harassment on campus has been totally inadequate.
We're just going to all stay together as a team, and we all made this decision as a team to, not talk to media, so you're not going to hear much from the players.
The football players haven't said yet if they're going to boycott Saturday's game against Brigham Young University, but the school could lose about $1 million if the game is canceled. Students have been protesting over the past week. One student even went as far as going on a hunger strike. Last night, about 150 people showed up to protest during a prayer vigil. For months, black students have complained about racial slurs and other issues on the campus, which has about 35,000 mostly white students. The most recent round of protests comes after the student body president claimed people in a truck shouted slurs at him. Last month, protesters blocked President Tim Wolf's car during the homecoming parade after he refused to get out to talk to them. Days before the parade, members of a black student organization claimed a white student shouted racial insults at them.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Ben Carson and his ongoing fight with the media and the witch hunt, his words, of which he says he's now the subject.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this Friday too, but it reached a new level this weekend. The items in question include this. Carson's claim that he was offered a scholarship to West Point. Carson claimed that he protected white students from angry black students at his Detroit high school the day after Martin Luther King Jr. was shot. Then there's this one about a Yale psychology professor, Devin Carson, the most honest student in the class, and one that's received quite a bit of attention. Carson says he had a violent childhood and once even attempted to stab a fellow teen at the age of 14. Carson's now firing back at the media. Earlier today, he posted a pic on Facebook from an interview with his mother, Sonia, that he did in Parade magazine. That was back in May of 1997. Carson's mom says, "Oh, that really happened," referring to the story about Carson attempting to stab. As the Parade article mentions, and Carson has said more recently, the stabbing was only thwarted by the other boy's belt buckle. Carson calls that moment a huge turning point in his life that pushed him towards Christianity.
Yeah, also on Facebook, Carson took a swipe at CNN for them not doing the research on that same story. CNN said they couldn't find anything to corroborate Carson's account, and we just talked about something that apparently did. You can check that out on his Facebook page. Also, late last week, Politico published a story that claimed Carson fabricated a story about accepting a full scholarship to West Point. Politico later changed the title, removing the reference to the fabrication, but Politico says its reporting did establish that Carson said he received a full scholarship from West Point in writing and public appearances over the past years. In fact, he did not, and there is actually no such thing, we talked about this on Friday, as a full scholarship to the taxpayer-funded military academy. Today, Politico acknowledged, of course, this is from the Politico article, they said that Carson acknowledged the fact that there was a little dust up over this. Carson actually said the same thing 1 month ago during an interview with Charlie Rose.
I was offered a full scholarship to West Point, got to meet General Westmoreland, go to Congressional Medal of Honor dinners, but decided really my pathway would be medicine.
Well, you know, personally, I do find it a little bit troubling. You know, it's one thing to do that in the autobiography all those years ago when you worked in medicine, even though he was an ROTC, but somebody who's running for the presidency just 1 month ago, tossing around the idea of a full scholarship to a service academy.
That doesn't offer it.
It doesn't offer a scholarship. You get an appointment from a member of Congress that allows you to attend the academy. Everybody who goes there essentially gets a full scholarship, and it's not like Carson changed his words or minced his words. He almost repeated the exact same thing from his autobiography. So I do find that a little concerning.
Well, there was also a story in the Wall Street Journal. Ben Carson's past faces deeper questions. In a harsh light of presidential politics, parts of his inspirational biography are questioned. Now, that article included stories about Carson protecting a few white students from attacks. We mentioned this earlier, from angry black students the day after Martin Luther King Jr. was shot at Detroit's Southwestern High. Now, that article included an allegation that Carson lied about a Yale course. Now, Yale said the course didn't exist, but apparently Carson's team also posted on Facebook an old article from the Yale paper that recalled the story. These are just part of the reasons why Carson has compared the media coverage of his campaign as this sort of witch hunt.
Here's my prediction. My prediction is that all of you guys trying to pile on is actually going to help me. Because when I go out to these book signings, I see these thousands of people, they say, don't let the media get you down. Don't let them disturb you. Please continue to fight for us. See, they understand that this is a witch hunt.
Well, apparently it is helping. Carson tweeted this weekend thanking the biased media for helping him raise $3.5 million just last week via 10,000 individual donations. So there you go.
Still, you know, it's kind of like the debate. Whenever they attack the liberal media, the conservatives seem to jump on the bandwagon and just donate more money. This happened during the last CNBC debate, so maybe this will continue to help them. We'll find
See if there's
out.
any mention of this tomorrow night during the debate. Time will tell. Let's move on. Topping the news front today, President Obama says the U.S. is now working closely with Jordan after a shooting rampage earlier today where a Jordanian police officer killed 2 Americans and 1 South African. The gunman wounded 6 others before he was shot and killed by police on the base there. The attack happened at a U.S.-funded facility where they train security forces. Currently, they're training Iraqi and Palestinian force.
New York City police search for a shooter accused of killing 1 person and wounding 2 others this morning in an attack near Penn Station. Police say the shooting happened after an argument in a McDonald's restaurant, but they don't believe the shooter actually knew the victims beforehand. 2 Louisiana police officers are being held on a $1 million bond each after killing a 6-year-old boy when they shot at his father's car. Lieutenant Derek Stafford and Officer Norris Greenhouse face murder and attempted murder charges. The details are a little sketchy right now, but the officers say they were trying to stop the father's car when they became afraid for their lives and fired on it.
Well, President Obama and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meeting today to try and mend fences. Netanyahu is backing a 2-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but he says the Palestinians must recognize Israel as a Jewish state, an idea they've rejected. President Obama and the Prime Minister are also talking about a new military package for Israel. Alan Dershowitz and Newsmax's John Gizzi will join us later in the show to discuss these developments. Plus, we want to know what you think about today's meeting. Did you see a little tension there between the two? Tweet us at Newsmax Now or leave us a comment on our website, newsmax.com/comments. We'll take a look at those coming up. Meantime, President Obama calling on his followers to support him in enacting new, stricter gun control laws, or executive orders, we should say. The Democratic Party sent a message over the weekend. The president doesn't lay out a strategy in the email. Instead, he urges people to sign a petition for, quote, common sense reforms to gun laws.
Donald Trump's Saturday Night Live appearance generated the largest overnight ratings in 3 years. Despite efforts from several Latino groups that were urging NBC to dump Trump, NBC refused to cave to the pressure even after Democratic Congressman Loretta Sanchez blasted the network for, quote, endangering Latinos by allowing Trump to host SNL.
And the Federal Railroad Administration approving a nearly $28 million grant for a new high-speed rail line. That line would move trains between New York and Washington, D.C. at 300 miles per hour. It uses magnetic levitation, maglev, you may have heard of it under those terms. It's similar to the Japanese train system, like the ones you see here in this picture.
We're big fans of Starbucks, right? I mean, we have to have our caffeine jolt every now and then, but Starbucks is making some headlines, and maybe not in a good way. They brought out their new Christmas cups this year.
Yeah, I didn't understand this. I bought a red cup. I was like, oh, great. The holiday season is upon us. But those new solid red cups have some people upset, claiming it's taking Christmas out of the holidays. That's the subject of today's rehash. Actress Candace Cameron Bure, of Full House fame, links to her Instagram saying, Starbucks war on Christmas, ? It's a red cup, folks.
Jim Nalrakas, editor of Fair Magazine, jokes, using red rather than snowflake cups, Starbucks sides with fire god Sutra over frost giant, I hope I'm saying this right, Ymir, # war on Ymir. Columnist Connie Schultz tweets, how to keep the Christ in Christmas, # tip more.
There you go. And Allison Adato of People Magazine advises, dear people upset by the Starbucks red cup, bring your own reindeer snowflake Jesus travel mug. Just think of all the Christmas trees you will save. Fair point.
Yes. And we want to remind you to be sure to tune in to Newsmax TV tomorrow night for our post-debate special. That's immediately following the GOP debate, the fourth one. We have all-star guests that will include Michael Savage, Dick Morris, John Zogby, Craig Shirley, and many more. John and I will be there. You also have a chance to weigh in and tell us who you think won the debate. Don't forget to watch it. That's tomorrow night following the debate at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll be right back.